Another round of spoilers were dropped in our laps today from the Legends of Runeterra team as we approach the new Call of the Mountain set that's scheduled to release on August the 26th. As per the release quote-unquote schedule of the spoilers we've been getting for the past week now, there was no champion revealed today, as expected. We did, however, get to see some new cards from the Shadow Isles region that are coming to set 3. Also, we got a sneak peek at another new keyword from the next set, and it's called Nightfall. In this video, we'll be talking about the Nightfall mechanic and the new cards associated with it. As always, I'll be giving some additional thoughts on the Nightfall keyword itself and the cards revealed today, but fair warning, I'll need to take a very measured approach to what was shown to us based on what we know, and more importantly, what we don't know yet when it comes to the rest of the Shadow Isles cards from this new set. Before we jump in, if you like content like this and want to see more, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any future coverage from me. Let's talk about this new keyword first before we jump into the Shadow Isles cards that were revealed today showcasing that keyword. Nightfall cards gain a bonus if this is not the first card you play in a round. This can be a strong mechanic, but Nightfall also has the potential to be a drawback. Having to play another card first before your Nightfall card puts limits on this keyword from the get-go. But the way it's designed is that you pay for the drawback up front in order to get a bigger payoff from the Nightfall card you want to play afterwards. So this means that the bonus you get from the Nightfall card has to make up for the fact that you had to spend mana and a previous action first before playing it. Also keep in mind that in most cases your opponent will get to play something before you play your Nightfall card, since you took an action to play another card first. With all of that being said, it looks like we're in a similar situation with these cards that we were in when Behold first got revealed. It's pretty tough to evaluate these without knowing what the Shadow Isles champion does. I'll try to keep that in mind when we're going over these cards, so let's jump into them. First, a quick shout out to Cosmic for putting together this graphic showing all the cards spoiled today. For those new, Cosmic has been contributing quite a bit to the Legends of Runeterra community and has been around since the beginning. Be sure to check out Cosmic's Twitch channel at the top right, as well as his YouTube channel where you can also find Legends of Runeterra content. A link to his channel will also be on a card in the top right corner of this video. First off, we have Stygian Onlooker. This is a 1-mana 2/1 that has Nightfall, give me +2/+0, and Fearsome this round. This isn't quite as bad as it first might seem to some people. We do need to keep in mind that Fearsome usually has the most impact within the first 3 turns because those are the turns where most decks don't have a unit that's strong enough to block a Fearsome unit. Once we get to round 4, Fearsome starts to fall off a lot since bigger units come online at that point. I could see this being played in more aggressive Shadow Isles decks and maybe even a dedicated Shadow Isles aggro deck, something we haven't seen since the Spider aggro days. And no, Endure doesn't count because it's not a deck that dedicates itself to an aggro strategy. It just happens to have the potential to start the game aggressively, which isn't the same thing. Anyway, you are incentivized to not play this round 1, so you can get a 4/1 Fearsome on round 2 or 3. The ideal situation for this card would be if you're on even turns and you play 2 1-drops on round 2, this one being the second one you play, and then you attack for 5 damage or more. But even if this is your only 1-drop on round 1, a 2/1 is the standard stat line for aggressive 1-mana units in Runeterra. So it's not the worst thing in the world, but it's not going to feel good either. This card's playability will ultimately depend on what the Shadow Isles champion does. It doesn't look amazing right now, but it's just as tough for me to call this card terrible either. Next we have Doom Beast, a 3-mana 3/2 with a Nightfall ability, drain 2 from the enemy Nexus. Personally, I think this is the weakest Nightfall card shown today. I think it's even worse than other 3-mana units in the game that have 2 health for a few reasons. Doom Beast is actually going to be the hardest one to activate out of these 3 cards. If you're trying to curve out in the early game, it's going to be really hard to find a card to play before this one if you want to play it on round 3, unless you saved mana from a previous turn to play not only a cheap spell, but a proactive spell as well. If you try to play Doom Beast after round 3, it's a lot worse because your opponent will usually be playing much better units than your Doom Beast at that point. There's also one other drawback. that some of you might have noticed already, but it's a little hard to see. Doombeast is the only Nightfall unit in this group with a skill icon to the left of its Nightfall ability, which means Doombeast's Nightfall can actually be responded to before it goes off, unlike the other units revealed today whose Nightfall abilities happen immediately when played. The Drain 2 is largely not impactful in the early game unless you're facing aggro. You do get health immediately if your opponent can't respond, unlike with lifesteal units, who you need to deal damage with to get any value. But I'd still rather have lifesteal on my unit in most other situations when facing those same aggro decks. Maybe this will go up in viability when the Shadow Owls champion gets revealed, but if it doesn't, I can't say I'll be surprised. Up next we have Duskrider. This is a 5 mana 2/5 with Fearsome and Nightfall. Grant me +1/+0 for each time we've activated Nightfall this game. I do think this card is decent in the sense that it has the most potential out of all of these. You do still need to play a card before this card in the same round you want to play Duskrider, but unlike the others, this bonus is based on how many times you've activated it since the game started. So this is already getting +1 power just from activating itself. And a 5 mana unit having 5 base health goes a long way. Now a 3/5 for 5 mana is still underwhelming for sure. But if you've activated Nightfall even 2 times before playing this card, this thing is a 5/5 Fearsome, which isn't bad. Duskrider can also scale into the late game and have even more stats, but the Fearsome tag does continue to fall off the later the game goes, unless you can remove your opponent's bigger units or reduce their power stats. This card is still heavily relying on what the Shadow Owls champion will do though, so we'll need to keep an eye on this one. Next we have Passage Unearned. This is a 3 mana fast spell where you obliterate all units that were summoned but not played this round. This is one of the weirdest Shadow Owls cards I've ever seen. To be clear, I can see why a lot of people would say this card is bad. This card is extremely narrow and is a dead card against a ton of decks out there for sure. Most decks actually play their units from hand, not by summoning them. But what this card is good against is actually its own region, Shadow Owls. There is no other region in the game that is better at summoning units than Shadow Owls right now. In fact, literally every Shadow Owls champion up until this point is able to summon additional units, and the majority of them do it before they level up. And that's before we get into other cards like the Rekindler and several Last Breath units. I think this could see some niche play as a tech card if there is ever a meta-defining Shadow Owls deck that's focused on summoning multiple units. And there are a few of those decks already. Spider Aggro, once upon a time, and perhaps more importantly, Anivia Rekindler decks. That's right, this will also hit champions that were summoned. So, if we ever see a meta where decks like those dominate, this will be a powerful tech option. Otherwise, it probably won't ever see play. Finally, we have Encroaching Shadows. This is a 4 mana burst spell. You grant all allies in deck and hand +2/+2 and ephemeral. This is the most interesting card spoiled today and possibly the most powerful one. But again, this is based on us not knowing what the Shadow Owls champion will do. This is definitely a card that ephemeral decks can play with and has the potential to level up your Hecarim as quickly as round 6, the earliest you can play him. If you can play your Soul Shepherd early on and keep it alive after you play this card, your units will be even bigger when they come down. One other strategy that might be interesting is playing this card in decks that run units that have some type of evasion, meaning they are difficult to block. Elusives come to mind, especially since elusive units naturally have lower stats, and this will be a good way to beef them up. Another one is running this with the Overwhelm units from Noxus or possibly even Freljord. It's possible this could be played in a tweaked version of Noxus Harrowing, for example. It'll be interesting to see what deck builders come up with when building around this card. But that's all I've got for you today. I hope you enjoyed this look into the Shadow Owls cards spoiled. If you did, feel free to leave a like as it really helps me out and gets this video out there to others in the community. If you don't want to miss future coverage of the new set from me, subscribe to the channel and don't forget to hit the notification bell below to make sure you know when the next video goes live. Feel free to check out the other Legends of Runeterra videos that I have on the channel or even the other places you can find me on the internet. You'll find links to my Twitter, Twitch channel, and our community Discord that you can join as well in the video description below. Thanks for taking time out of your day to watch this, and I'll see you next time. Take care.